Hi, friends. Welcome to some noon relaxing, restorative movement today. If anyone can chat with me real quick and just let me know you can hear me, you can see the space, and then I'll break down kind of the props that we need and what we'll go through today. So looks like I got a couple of you on there. Awesome. Oh, the cats. I'll try to get them out of here just so they're not distracting. But if you do have an awesome like golden retriever or something, they can make great props. You can lay on them. They can snuggle with you. So here's what we're working with a bit today is 2 blocks, if you do have them. Okay, if you have them, great. If not, what we'll do just as nicely, pretty much, maybe even a little bit softer, is a rolled up blanket of some sorts. Couch cushion works nicely. Also bolsters, if you're one to have that support. Awesome. Otherwise, let's just take a minute or two here to gather your props to get started. I like to have water nearby. I think that that's important. So I'm just responding to those of you who are trying to find me. I also have put a Spotify playlist on. It's just my general yin one. You can really go anywhere through it. You can start it how it is. Hi, Jack. You can go anywhere through it. You can start it where I begin, or if you want to move ahead in it, great. Sometimes I think it's best when I practice just to go on to Spotify if you have it on your phone and play it that way. If that's the case for you, I'm Yogi Kristen, YogiKristen, all one word. And then this Spotify playlist, I think it's just Yin, just YIN. Hi, Kathy. Awesome to have you guys. Also, feel free to share this if you want, after, before. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I want to begin with a little bit of breath work. So a couple of ways to go about this is to elevate your hips a bit. So if you're comfortable sitting, kind of crisscross applesauce, awesome. If you need some support, you can prop yourself up on a block, or if you do the block or the blanket or anything else, I'd suggest sit more towards the edge of it, and then you'll have that nice anterior tilt to your pelvis, and that natural curvature in your lower lumbar can occur. Okay, so we don't necessarily need any specific breath, but it is nice to just breathe, right? And Ujjayi breath is my favorite. It's not required, but I think it helps to build some heat and make the breath audible to help calm and quiet the mind and the nervous system. So if you want, you can seal your lips and simply breathe in and out of your nose. And create somewhat of equal length to your breath. And if you'd like, close your eyes. Make the breath nice and even here. And just let that be calm, quiet, and still. Just a few more moments here. Have some sort of regulation to the breath as we move through practice today. So this first posture, toe pose, it's very intense. It's something that I need right now for my feet. It helps you get a bit grounded. But just know that it's fairly intense. So keep the breath nice and steady. You might need some sort of support. Perhaps it's your blocks, cushion, something to lean forward on. It could even just simply be the floor. So the way this toe pose works is ideally you tuck all 10 toes underneath you. So I'm going to turn sideways so you can see this. Okay. Sometimes I have to help my little pinky toe underneath. Okay. It's going to be fairly intense, especially if you have any kind of like plantar fasciitis or anything like that. Just it might be intense. So you'll just have to regulate as needed. So you'll come forward, and if you get to a point where this doesn't work, I'd say just take a seat because it's only going to be 1 minute. Okay, so tuck all 10 toes underneath, and we'll start the minute right here. So you'll notice if you sit back, it's kind of like, holy cow, feel that. Breathe deep. If it's extremely painful, a couple things you can do is take the weight forward a bit in any manner. But I really encourage you, if you can, to lean back a bit. And you'll notice the more you lean back, the more intense it is. The more you take the weight forward, it'll lessen that intensity. About 30 seconds more. Keep the breath. Hold on, we're almost there. Let's do one more full inhalation and full exhalation. And then one of my favorites to get out of this is you bring the tops of your feet to the mat and kind of just tap it out. It's fun when you're in a big class because it can make the whole room sound like it's raining. So return that circulation, maybe a bit of movement with your hips side to side. Okay, so one more kind of opener here. I like to often sit on the block. It can be called hero's pose, but it's reverse namaste. So I don't need the block today. Gets a little deeper into the quadriceps. So reverse namaste. Namaste. You take it behind you. Kind of snuggle your fingertips up. If that's just not going to work for you today, you can simply grab opposite elbows. Okay? What this is going to do is help open through our chest and our shoulders. So we'll do about a minute here. Sit up tall. Regulate the breath. If this is bothersome to your knees, not only try to sit yourself up on some sort of support, but you could also just cross your legs in front of you or whatever seated position works best. It's more about the openness to the chest at this point. And with any of these postures, if you need to rearrange, do something for yourself, you can. If it's fairly intense, I suggest breathe through it. If there's any pain, just back on out. Find something else that works for you. 2 more cycles of breath. And then once those couple of breaths are completed, release. maybe some gentle movement with the shoulders. And then we'll come into tadpole pose, which some of you might know as child's pose. So lots of recommendations here. If you have sensitive knees, find your blanket, pad your knees up. I like to use a block and a bolster in a couple of different ways for this one. So whether you have 1 to 2 couch cushions, if you feel like your feet might fall asleep, your knees might not enjoy this, then I'd suggest put some sort of support underneath that space, that region. And knees can part of it, otherwise keep them somewhat close together, feet part wide to the edges of your mat. Now we will take about 5 minutes here, and I want to time us. So for one, I like to snuggle up. I use this support. If you have the 2 blocks, one maybe the taller height, medium height, and then something on top of it. And I like to let students know when we're halfway through, so that if you want to turn your head to one side, you'll know at that point to even things out. Some of you might not need anything at all. So as we come into this pose, start to settle in. I'll begin the timing here. Block can be under your head, or find that snuggle up variation. I've already began the time. So I like to start to widen my knees. Then from there, I feel it through adductor muscles, through inner thigh muscles. If you don't have any support, you might feel it a little bit more in your back of your hips. But mostly I'd say it's inner thigh stretch. We do spend some time here, so with all postures, I suggest if it's really uncomfortable or bothersome and you can't quite relax and release, readjust. Find a way where you can soften in. But again, if there's any pain, since I can't physically be there for you, find a way to get comfortable. About another minute here for the halfway mark. See if you can deepen the breath just a bit. So as we approach this halfway mark, a couple of suggestions if you did turn your head, switch it out. If you need it to be a little bit more restorative on your shoulders, you can take your arms down by your sides. If you want a little bit more of a tricep stretch, just depending on where you are in your space, a couple of things you can do. Namaste hands. But if you really want to get deep and you have the 2 blocks, put your elbows back of your triceps on it, and then really let the front of your chest open up. And with all of these things, you can try it on. And if it's just not working, move to a place that does work for you. Any of the suggestions I've already made. We'll be here for about another minute. Find patience in your practice. Take just a couple more deep breaths here. In and out. Feel your belly rise and fall. Now, as we ease out of this, and slide any support you may have used off to the side. Do a little bit of rebound movement here, so back up. Movement with your hips. This next one is one of my favorite. It's quite similar to half pigeon in the vinyasa world, if you like that. But you still may need some padding for your knees, padding for your hips. It's called deer pose. So we just kind of opened and stretched the inner thighs, and now we're going to work the back of the hips, the outer thighs. So think half pigeon if you're familiar with it. Ideally, and just know that things can look a bit backwards on Facebook, so just listen to my cues. My right leg is forward first. And again, ideally, shin is parallel to the front short edge of your mat. If it comes back a little bit, that's okay. But the difference between half pigeon is the back leg is bent. So I almost think of it like a pinwheel shape. Okay, and then you might very well need some support. We'll be here for about 4 minutes or so. So again, whatever you need to recline down onto, or perhaps you can meet yourself all the way down to the floor. Let's come on into it. I'll start the timing now. I'll still let you know when we're halfway. So right now I'm feeling this back of my right hip, and depending on how far forward I can descend, I'll feel it in the opposite outer hip as well. Get yourself where you need to be. If it's bothersome to your knee, rearrange it until it's not. And then come on into the pose. Again, I'll let you know when we're halfway through that 4-minute hold. Keep the breath nice and deep. If you can hear any oceanic quality to the breath, let that sound help calm and soothe your mind and your nervous system. Take one more deep, full inhalation. Long exhalation. And now we're halfway through. So if you did kind of turn your head in a different direction, or if you want to open up a bit with your leg, move it forward or back, be sure there's some sensation. Not pain, but there should be some sensation in the outer hips. I'm actually starting to cramp up just a bit here, so I'm going to move my leg in a little bit, relieve that cramping. Just about another minute here. A lot of these poses today getting into the lower chakras, first, second, third. If you're not familiar with chakras, maybe Google it later, see what you think. This is really our roots, and the season is spring, which we're in, that it coincides with. You might feel this a bit in your inner groin too, not just the outer legs. And know that it's accessing the meridians of your liver and your gallbladder. We have just a few more breaths here. One more big inhale and exhale. And now as you ease out of this, I like a little bit of rebound movement. It's just some, I call it kind of windshield wiper movement with the legs, side to side. Just get a bit of circulation, clear out your legs. And then we'll set up for the second side, deer pose. Whatever support you used before, chances are you'll need that again. So set yourself up. Again, ideally your shin is parallel to the top short edge of your mat, but if the heel comes in a little bit, that's okay. Think of that pinwheel action with your legs. And I'll start the timing now, about 4 minutes. And just know that each side can certainly be different. My knee's a little bothersome today on this side, so I'm going to pad it with the blanket so that I can keep the posture sustainable. Again, great if you don't need any support. It's just there for you if you need it. And once again, each side tends to feel different. It's a different hip, it's a different knee, it's a different ankle. Find your breath. And then again, the region that you should feel the sensation, definitely through the front outer hip, the leg that's in front. I still feel it a bit in the back outer hip, but also you might feel it in your groin. So rearrange if necessary. Got another minute here before we're at that halfway mark. Now we're about halfway. So if you need to turn your head to the other side, perhaps kind of falling into the pose and getting a bit more relaxed, and you can remove some support. We've got about another minute here. Focus on the breath. See if you can kind of quiet the mind. Let any internal dialogue, it might just come in like an ocean wave, but then let it recede like an ocean wave. Let it go, especially if it's not anything you need to hold on to at this point. Be sure you're folding right down the middle, patting any places of discomfort. 2 more deep breaths. And once again, as you ease up, I'm a big fan of the windshield wiper action. The more you can rock side to side, the more massage out the sides of your hip. And then I'd like to set us up for 2 poses back to back. Bridge pose, supported bridge pose. If you do not have a block available, you could use a couch cushion. But if you can find something that's a little bit higher, maybe roll up a blanket on top of the cushion. But my recommendation is 2 blocks if you have them side by side. So blocks have different levels, right? Small, medium, tall. I really think the tall is far too much for this long of a hold. If you just have the one, that'll work too, but find the support that's needed as we recline. And we don't have to overthink the alignment too much with this because it's supported. Our joints aren't really holding us in the posture. So as you recline, bring your feet in fairly close. You don't want them too far away, really. You definitely don't want them too far in. I think that will be uncomfortable. So find just that proper placement. And we'll do simply 4 minutes here. And then as we release, we'll come into what's called fallen bridge. Some people call it constructive rest. So this will be the shape afterwards. So we can kind of release our low back. So as you're ready, press firmly into your feet. I like to use an inhale to lift my hips. Slide 1 to 2 blocks or whatever support under your tailbone region. And let's take the 4 minutes from here. And I will offer, I like to go a little bit deeper with this. And maybe you've joined me before, really gets into the front of the psoas and the quadriceps. So I'll give you some options at that halfway mark. But for now, I'd say arms and hands wherever you want them to be. Behind your head. Not that you want to overly lift your head. Maybe hands on your hips. 1 hand to heart, 1 hand to belly could be nice, especially when we make our way into that fallen bridge shape. Do your best to keep the gaze up. And this is just, I don't have super sensation in the low back, but it definitely feels like something my back needs right now. Especially these days, if you're over your devices, you're over your computer. It should help open things up. Couple deep breaths more here. And then just know as I cue this different movement, if none of it works for you, you can always return to right where you are. So here's a few options for you. For one, to get, again, deeper into the front side body, you can extend both legs. The heels can be on a bolster, or maybe they're perfectly comfortable on the floor. Legs can be a bit wide. If that's not working for you, I would suggest bend just the one leg. And then I'll let you know when we're about a minute in to switch out the legs. Another thing, especially if you're feeling quite open here with both legs straight and you want to get a bit deeper, arms can go overhead. And then you're really open through the front side body. Do your best to keep your gaze straight up. And then those of you who perhaps just bent the one leg, time to switch it out. And just again, know each side can feel a bit different. You might have to move your foot, move your leg. So you don't feel strain in the low back. You feel more the stretch to the front of your psoas, your hip flexors. Take a couple more deep breaths here. Feel your belly again rise and fall. And hopefully, if the breath is audible enough, it sounds a bit like ocean waves upon an imaginary shore. Now, as we exit this, I did suggest fallen bridge, but I'll give you another option just in case, especially if you have the two blocks or your support. You'll rebend your knees nice and slow if they're not already there. And then press down through your feet to lift your hips up enough to take that support out from underneath you. As you come down, so fallen bridge is feet wide, knees together. This is preferable to me and to my low back. If you really want butterfly pose, feet together and the support can go under thighs or knees. Depends on your range of motion. You can take your feet further forward. You can take your feet closer to your groins. So find whatever shape works for you. We'll do a few minutes here, and then I'll also let you know when we're halfway in case you want a little of each pose. This is also a lovely one to have one hand to heart, one hand to belly. And even if you wanted at that halfway mark, you could switch it out. It's going to be a very calming sensation. We're very vulnerable through these spaces in the front of our body. So it can be very healing, feel a bit protective, also to draw things in, intentions, thoughts that you may need, the world may need. So again, as we approach that halfway mark, stay where you are, or you have the opportunity at this point to switch into the alternate shape. Again, with any of this, you can try it on, and if your body's like, no thanks, especially not today, go back to the place of ease and comfort. Another 2 minutes here. Just another 60 seconds. Deepen the breath. Take 2 more bigger, deeper breaths. So depending on the shape you're in, if you're in the butterfly shape, help your legs together. If you're in the fallen bridge, bring your feet a little closer together and mildly bring yourself up. Another place where I like to windshield wiper the legs. Now we're well over halfway through our practice today, so just check in with yourself. If you're feeling thirsty, take some water. Be sure you stay hydrated. And I like to take a twist here. So to support yourself in the twist, you might need a bolster or your couch cushion between your legs. Because this is a longer twist, in order not to strain your low back or disrupt your lower lumbar, I think it's important for femur bones, your thighs, to be parallel to each other. So that's what this is going to help with. So as you come down, and again, I know things can look backwards, but I think it's really important to let the legs go left first, okay? You might need some sort of padding, support, or blanket underneath your right shoulder, because you don't want to jam your shoulders to the ground, but you do want to work them towards the earth. So find a 90-degree angle in your legs. So knees aren't too far back, they're not too far forward. Knees are over your hips. Take a breath in, and then here we go about 3 or so minutes on each side. So as you drop your legs to your personal left, often I have to take that bottom hip and bump it a bit to the right. That way your hips are really stacked. And the knees are not too far up here. Again, knees are not too far down. Do your best so that your femur bones are perpendicular to your spine. Lay your right shoulder over some support or blanket, or if you have a nice golden retriever to lay on, a puppy that will let you lay on them, they can work too. And then take your gaze a bit to the right. That way we're really getting the twist all the way through lumbar, thoracic spine, and cervical spine. If you'd like, you can goal post your arms, bend them, or they can kind of be out to a T, right? Let's take some time here as you settle in to this deep twist. You might feel a bit rumbly through your tummy, or even hear some things going on in your belly. We're just getting into internal organs here as well. So just know that that's natural and common. And deepen the breath. Okay, we're approaching that halfway mark. So any rearrangement that's needed, or again, just if it's helpful to know where we are in time and space. I'm a timer. I always keep track of all that. Maybe I'll turn a little bit more for you, just in case you're curious, but legs, again at 90. Turn your gaze to the best of your ability without forcing it over your right shoulder. Take about another minute here on this first side of the twist. I definitely feel my tummy rumbling. I feel all the water working its way down and in, which is awesome and really healthy for us. Give yourself one more full inhalation. Let everything empty out through the exhalation. And here's where we need to ease out, okay? I like to use my hands to support my legs, but you do what you need to do. So you come back through center. Let's check in again. Legs are 90 degrees, okay? So knees aren't too far forward. They're not too far back. Please have some sort of support for this longer hold as we change sides in the twist. So again, I like to bump my hips to my left. I think it just helps line everything up. And then as you're ready, lower your legs to your right. And I'll start the timer now. Know if that support under the opposite shoulder is needed. Scoot it underneath there. It's not like you have to get into the pose exactly at the same time as I do, but sometimes we need to check in. Things are uncomfortable, things are cranky. You reposition legs, you reposition shoulders. You get to a point where the posture can be sustainable. And then again, arms bent or out to a T, gaze over your left shoulder. Just check in with the legs. You want femur bones perpendicular to your spine. parts of the yin practice, there's some goals. It's holding for time and being still, which is, it's like shavasana. It can be challenging. And keep the mind quiet when we're still. That internal dialogue, those roaming thoughts, those will all be waiting for you later. So be here, be now, be present. Focus on the breath. We're now halfway through. About another minute here. Again, if you can allow your head to fall towards your left shoulder, great. If that's uncomfortable for your neck, your cervical spine, you can take the gaze up. But again, we're trying to rinse the internal organs and create a complete twist from lower lumbar through thoracic into the cervical spine. Just a few more moments here in this shape on this side of the twist. Breathe a little deeper. Okay, from here, once again, I really recommend help with your hands to guide yourself back to center. And then once you're in center, you can slide out your support, whatever was between your legs, perhaps whatever was beneath your shoulders. And take a moment for self-love here. Hug your knees into your chest. You can do a squeeze or let the back of your head rest to the floor. It might even feel nice to rock side to side. And we'll end with one of my very favorite poses. It's called banana pose, banana asana. I don't really think much support is needed here. Maybe something beneath your head, but it's a side body stretch. And then from there, we'll head directly into a brief shavasana. So here's what it looks like. Start in pentacle pose. So you're making an X shape with your body. And we'll go to your personal right first. So remember, even if it looks backwards, please follow me. Keep the right foot off the boundaries of your yoga mat. From there, the left leg will come up and you'll cross your left ankle over the right. And then I'll start the timing from here, but take the right hand to your left wrist and draw it over to the right top corner of your mat. So just think like the shape of a banana. That left hip may want to roll off the floor. You don't want to press it down too firmly, but maybe gently guide it down. So you're really getting, again, the side body stretch into your obliques. It should feel lovely. And then you can go as deep into this if you want. You can pull a little bit further, or you can back out a bit. But just do what you need to do. Only take about 3 minutes on each side. So nothing majorly long here, but I'm still going to let you know when we're at that halfway mark in our banana pose. Okay, we're halfway through this 3-minute hold. Just notice the sensations. Again, I really feel it. It's probably dependent on everybody, but I do feel it a bit in my left lower back. And it feels lovely, but you might also feel it down the IT bands, the outer sides of your legs, your left leg. Take one more deeper cycle of breath in. Now, long breath out. And then there's no need to rush the transition, just like everything. So I'd suggest back to the pentacle shape, so the X shape with your body. Be sure that that left foot, again, is pretty much off the boundaries of your yoga mat. Then you'll lift the right leg. You'll cross it over your left ankle. So ankles are crossed here. And I'll take my left hand to my right wrist to guide the upper portion of my body to the side. Again, create that banana shape with your body. Notice if the hip wants to overly peel off the earth. You're not trying to jam it down, but they're mostly connected to the ground so that you get that elongation through the right side of your body. It should feel lovely. And again, the sensation for me is like right SI region. So right lower back. I do feel it a bit at the top of my hip as well. Look mostly up. I'll still let you know when we're halfway through in case you're interested in getting a bit deeper into this side body bend. And then again, we'll take that brief Shavasana afterwards. We're holding for time and finding the stillness. Quiet the mind and the nervous system with your breath. Okay, we're about halfway through. Sometimes we can take the legs a little bit further, the upper body a little bit further. This is a great one too if you're tending to sit a lot lately, watching your movies, watching your TV, being over your device. Sometimes even when we eat, right, we're rounded forward, so we're stretching up and out of the waistline. Just about another minute here. And if there's any kind of moaning that's coming out or has come out all of practice, it's your space. I think it's a good sound, not necessarily in a public class, but in your own space. If you want to just moan, breathe, because it's a stretch, let it happen naturally. Let's take 2 more deep breaths here. Okay, as we exit the posture, pentacle pose, which is that X shape with your body, or basically Shavasana. So if you want to cover up with a blanket, if you'd like to pad the undersides of your knees with something, your blanket, if you have a nearby wall and you want to do legs up the wall pose, move to your closest wall. And then we'll settle in here just for a bit. Breathe naturally. This is your time to be held and cradled by the earth. So you can soften your jaw, let your tongue fall away from the roof of your mouth. Teeth separate slightly. So for this last minute, I'll chant for you, and then I'll pull you out of Shavasana, unless, of course, you're where you need to be in time and space, and you want to stay exactly where you are. I encourage that. Sharanam Ganesha, Sharanam Ganesha, Sharanam Ganesha, Sharanam Ganesha. If you're ready to exit your Shavasana, invite a little bit of movement. Awaken your hands, awaken your feet, your arms, and your legs. A little bit of movement with your head side to side. And on your next inhalation, a full body stretch, like you're waking up for the very first time today. Arms overhead, legs get a little longer. And then nice and easy as you take your time to gently turn onto your right side. Find a fetal position. Bend your knees, rest your head. It's a very nourishing shape, and you can even stay there as long as you'd like, unless you're ready to join me. You'll ease yourself up into a comfortable seated position and face yourself in whatever direction suits your body best. Sit up nice and tall, find a longer spine. We'll bow forward together to conclude our practice. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings in all the worlds be happy, free of suffering, and at peace. Namaste. All right, friends, feel free to share this. Should be a share button at the bottom of your screen. Put it on your Facebook page. It'll be on my page forever and always. We'll be on YogaPod's page. I hope you're all where you need to be. Enjoy your weekend. And for those of you who are mothers, happy early Mother's Day. Have a lovely Sunday.